Okay. Fine. Very good morning to all of you. So today's topic of discussion is performance appraisal methods. Myself, Professor Bharti Sundar here from Department of Management Studies, STM College of Engineering and Technology. Yes. So today, yesterday we have discussed about process of appraisal. Okay. So there were 5 stages which we have discussed it. Hope you all have got them. So now for today, we are going to discuss performance appraisal methods. So we have two categories of appraisal methods here, which are used by companies normally. So those are traditional methods and the modern methods. So traditional methods are something like some of them are ranking method, paired comparison method, grading methods, force distribution methods, checklist, critical incident technique method, graphic rating scales, and so on. Whereas modern methods nowadays, most of the MNCs are using these kind of methods here. These are MBOs, that is management by objectives. This is behaviorally anchored rating scales. It's also called as bars, then assessment centers and 360 degrees appraisal system. So these are some modern methods which you can nowadays observe in the companies being used up. We may not be able to discuss all of them, but yes, we will be discussing important methods in this session for today. Okay, so we'll start with the traditional methods. So the first method is this ranking method. It is very simple. So just like in sports, okay, so the best person is given the first rank, then the second, then the third. The same way this ranking method works. So here, okay, so this is one of the very oldest kind of a method where employees are compared with each other. So one employee is compared with other employees. In the same way, all the employees are compared with other employees, and who is the best or who is the worth placing in the topmost position. So that will be decided by the managers or the superiors here. And once that is done, the rankings are allotted to them. Let us say if there are like if there are around 10 employees in the organization, so in those 10 employees, who is the best employee, he will be put up in the rank of first, then second, then third performer, fourth performer. So this is how this ranking method is going to work out. But whereas there are some drawbacks here, the main drawback is if there are more number of employees in the organization, this ranking method may not be easy to implement. Why? Because you have to compare the employees. Let us say there are 1,000 employees in the organization. So when there are 1,000 employees in the organization, comparing those people one to one becomes very, very difficult. So if the department is small or if the organization is small, the number of participants are very, very less, then this is very much suitable. Okay, so that is ranking method. So then comes paired comparison method. You hope you can see the cursor here. So on this line there are employees. Here also there are employees. Let us say there is employee A here, B here, C and D and E. Okay, so this A is compared with the employee B, that is this person here. Okay, so A to A we cannot compare because both are same people. So A's performance is compared with B. If A's performance is better than B, he is going to be given a plus, that is a positive point here. Okay, and again the A is compared with C here. So if C is better here, A gets a negative point here. Okay, then again A is compared with D here. Okay, Then again, if D is better performer compared to a negative point is given here. So again, the A is compared to E here. So E is not so much performing as compared to A. So that is why A has been given a positive grading here. So by doing this, how many positives, how many positive point you get? Okay. So based on that, so how many positive points you get, no, based on that you will be your performance is going to be measured. So here in this method, every employee is compared with the other employees in the organization on many factors. So let us take here example creativity. A, this person A, so this person A, he is compared with B in terms of creativity. So who is creative among these two? So if B is creative, he have to get a negative point here, because A is, we are comparing A here, not B. Okay, A is compared to B here, and A's creativity is more than B. So he is getting a negative, positive point here compared to B. In the same way, let us say B. B to A, he should get negative. Why? Because here A has already got positive, means here ultimately B is going to get a negative point. So let us say C. C is the one who is getting more numbers on terms of creativity here compared to A. Then again, compared to B also, he is very creative. C to C you cannot compare. Compared to D also, he is very, very creative. Only E is more creative than C here. So here he gets 3 points. So if you just look into these 5 people, so the person who is maximum performing will be C here. So this is how you try to compare the employees with each other. Again, there is a drawback here in this paired comparison method. That is, it is highly time consuming. And second thing is, when more number of employees are there, how much you'll be finding it very difficult to compare the employees. So because the whole table, whatever you are seeing here on the screen, that table is going to be too large, and the comparison sometimes become very, very uh, complicated. So for that reason, it is better not to, whenever the more number of employees are there, it is better not to use this kind of a method. Of course, you can use it in organizations where, when there are small teams, or when their department is there which has very less number of employees, like 10 or 15, to the max 15 to 20 employees you can, uh, if there are there in the organization or a department, you can use this paired comparison method. But you have to first define these factors. Here we have defined one example as creativity. So like this, honesty, commitment, we have coordination, teamwork, job skills, job knowledge. So these are various factors, you have to list them on. And for every factor, this kind of a table has to be created. So that is why it is time consuming, I told. Okay, so that is a method of paired comparison. So then we have this critical incident technique. Okay, so we have this critical incident technique. Critical incident technique is something which identifies important incidents in the organization. So here I have taken a small example of a clerk. Let us say a clerk is working in the organization, and if he shows good initiative in checking the work, it is quite okay. He checks everything. So whatever documents are passing through him, whatever parcels are passing to him, everything he checks, but he does not take any action on that. So that means he is that his performance is very poor in his job. But if the same clerk is able to notice a mistake in a letter which was passing through him, and he founded it to be totally opposite, the meaning of that letter is totally opposite to what it was intended to, he corrects it and then he passes that letter on to the next level. In case he does this, that means his performance is good. That means he does his performance effectively. I'll take another simple example. Let us say a person is walking on the shop floor. He is an electrician, and there is a live wire which has fallen down on the shop floor. He sees it, but he does not pick up. That is a poor performance. If he sees it, he picks it up and puts it in the safety place. That means it is a good performance by that employee, by that electrician. So these kind of incidents are observed by the manager or the superior, so-called superior, and those things are noted down in the diaries. Whenever the appraisal is being done, these observations are used to rate the employees. Critical incidents will happen only once in a while. They may not happen every day or every minute. Okay, so that once in a while, that manager has to observe the employee. He has to note it down in the diary, and after the year, that is the appraisal is being conducted, no, if it is conducted for yearly basis, after 1 year he has to open his diary and find out what all observations he has done on the employees behaviors during those critical incidents. So whether he was ineffective or whether he was effective in his behavior. So such things have to be observed and record has to be kept. Whenever there are a lot of employees in the organization, so this kind of a system may not be suitable again. Okay, because it is an observation technique, you may need a lot of time and you may always concentrate on the employees, on their behavior, right? At a single point of time you cannot observe 10-20 employees what they are performing on their jobs. Okay, so how effective they are, how ineffective they are, you may not be able to observe their behaviors. So for that reason, appraisal of critical incident method appraisal system is not suitable in bigger organizations. The main basic idea behind this rating is to appraise the workers who can perform their job effectively in critical situations. Of course, let us say there is a big incident in the organization. Who reacts first? Who ensures that workers are in safety? Or suddenly who takes up actions to save somebody in the organization? So that presence of mind or effectiveness in those important, critical, sensitive situations, how the employee is performing or how the worker is performing. So this can be analyzed. The best suggestion as I can give for you people is you can use it as a supportive method with the other appraisal systems. Okay, so only based on critical incident technique you cannot say that the employee is non-performing or performing or effective or ineffective. Okay, just by using this critical incident method you cannot judge a person, because there are a lot of situations wherein his performance may be very good, his output may be very good in terms of performance. So that is why just don't depend upon critical incident technique method to judge the employee or the worker here. Then comes this checklist method. So checklist method is okay. Checklist method is very simple here. So here there is a set of questions. You can see on the slide here in the table 28.2. There is a set of questions and there is yes no options. Okay. So for every employee, the head or the supervisor will rate him. Okay, on yes or no statements. Okay, simple. There is no rating given here. There is simple whether he does it or does not do it. Okay, so that is a checklist method here. So let us say, sorry, employee A is working in an organization. Employee A is working in an organization. Whether he is regular to the job or not, you just have to give yes and no. Okay, you cannot. The main plus point here is you cannot be biased. You cannot give an average answer. Maybe, may not be. You cannot give such kind of answers here. It is either yes or it is either no. Does he maintain? Okay. Does he maintain? Sorry. Yeah. Does he maintain discipline well or not? Yes again or no. So like this, for all these questions, there are some negative sentences also, there are some positive sentences also. You should keep in mind where the employee is going to score here. So does he make mistakes? Does ever he makes mistakes? So if you say yes, that is a negative point. If you say no, that's a positive point for him. So here, all yeses cannot be positive. So it depends on the questions which you are asking in the left side of your table. So based on those, is he willing to help the colleagues? Yes, that's a positive answer, right? Does he show favoritism to the particular students? Yes, it's a negative answer. Okay, so you should be very careful when you are counting the marks, or I can say points, for the employee here. So this is a simple checklist method. So these checklist methods, you can, what I can say, it can be presented to the rater, and the appropriate answers can be uh, ticked by him, which is relevant to the appraisee here, that is the employee here. So each question will be carrying its own weightage, and based on that weightage, whatever positive or negative scoring he has got, so that scoring will be helping you to judge whether that employee has performed in his job or not, whether he is disciplined or systematic in his work or not. So that is a checklist method. Then comes graphic rating scale method. So this, as the word itself tells you, it is rating. Okay, so here you can see an example of a rating scale. These are the factors on the left side. Just a minute. Okay, so hope you can see them. These are the two factors here. First factor is the job knowledge, and second factor is the dependability. So let us say if I'm supposed to rate a candidate, an employee in the organization, and measure his performance, the first factor is job knowledge, whether he is having job knowledge or not. Okay, so job knowledge is the information pertinent to the job that an individual should have for satisfactory job performance. So if he is supposed to work, if he is supposed to perform, he should have that basic job knowledge uh, in which he is going to perform. So here are the 5 rating scales you can see. So poorly informed about his work duties, that is, he does not know what he is supposed to do in the organization. Occasionally unsatisfactory, that means sometimes he is not so satisfaction, he is not satisfied, his performance is not so satisfactory, I can say. He can answer most of the questions about the job. That means he may be having good job knowledge. He understands all the phases of the job. That means he better understands the job. Okay, then he has complete mastery of all the phases of the job. So which rating suits that employee, whether it is first, second, third, fourth, fifth. So you should judge accordingly, and then you have to rate the candidate here, that is the employee here. So keep in mind, guys, always the negative rating will get one score, that is number 1, then second 2, so 3, 4, 5. So the highest score always gets the highest numbers here. Okay, that is the positive score. So here he has completed the mastery of all phases of the job. That means this one. Okay, so this is the most positive feedback here, so it gets 5 rating here. So when you are analyzing this whole data, no, you have to consider this particular factor as 5. So this will be considered as 4, and this will be considered as 3, then this will be considered as 2 and 1. So like this your scoring will go on. So here also the same thing here when it comes to dependability. So this rating is 1, this is 2, this is 3, this is 4, and this is 5. So when it comes to dependability, he requires constant supervision. Whether he requires or not, it is the manager or the supervisor who has to judge. Whether he or she requires occasional follow-up or not. Whether usually he can be counted on. That is, he is able to do on his own. He requires very less supervision. He requires absolute minimum supervision. So this rating is being used here. So let us say there is a person in the organization who is named as Suresh. So I'm the manager and I'm supposed to rate him. So his job knowledge, let me say, is occasionally unsatisfactory. So he gets 2 points here. Then dependability. He is not so much dependent. He is average in terms of dependability. So I'll rate him as 3 here. So 2 plus 3 is the scoring what he gets in terms of these two. Then again there is another person, Ramesh, let us say. Okay, I rate his job knowledge as very poor and I say as dependability 2. Okay, occasionally I need to follow up on him. So his rating will be here 3. So if you try to compare Suresh and Ramesh, who is better? Of course Suresh, because he is getting 5 points whereas Ramesh is getting 2 points. So like this, various performance factors are listed here. These are only two which I have listed out. Like this, there are various factors which are listed and a big questionnaire is being prepared and that questionnaire is given to the rater here. So that rater, for every employee, he'll fill that questionnaire. And based on that questionnaire, you use statistical tools to analyze that data and then decide who is the best performer in the organization. So the graphic rating scale is one of the most popular and simplest techniques of appraising performance. In this method, I already told you it's a printed appraisal form which is used to appraise each employee. For every employee, separate form is being used. The form has traits such as quality and reliability, and it ranges from job performance characteristics from unsatisfactory to outstanding. As I told you, there is always from negative to positive performance rating scale here. This rating is done on based on the points on the continuum. Points I have already told about it: 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So normal in graphic rating scale, 5-point rating scale is being used. It is the most common practice being followed up across the organizations. So the rater rates each appraisee by checking the score that best describes his or her performance for each trait. All assigned values for the traits are then totaled. I told you this. Okay, so we total up and then we will find out how much scoring has happened for the every employee. So these traits are here. Okay, job knowledge and dependability. So these are only two here. These traits may go up till 10, 20, 30 in some situations. So this is what is the most common and most preferred simple method of appraising the candidate here. Okay, and even though the scaling is subjective, but still you can quantify it because here you can score, you can understand how much the person is going to score here. So even though it is a kind of a subjective question, but still it is using this graphic, this rating scale, it has been quantified into objective method of appraising. Okay, then comes here forced distribution method. So what happens is most of the times, majority of the people, majority of the situations, people want to play very, very safe. Okay, so that is why uh, they normally tend to give average rating for all the employees. Okay, so to avoid this, what they do is they divide the employees in 5 categories, and those number of categories are poor performing employees, below average performing employees, average performing employees, good employees, and excellent performing employees. So to eliminate that central tendency, that is that kind of average rating scale, you just have to push your employees into these 5 categories. Okay, so here this is useful for rating especially large number of employees job performance and promoability, that is promotion ability. It tends to eliminate or reduce biasness here. I told you the same thing. Average rating, that is if I ask you a question, how good he is, good, better, best, average. So most of the people, they choose average for the reason they don't want to create enmity. They don't want to hurt anybody's feelings. Most of us, when we ask a question, it was okay, it was fine, his performance was average. So this is the answer we get. So to eliminate this, force distribution method can be used here. So what you do is you just put them in the categories. Okay. So it is very simple and very easy, and for application also it is very easy to apply. So the major thing is what happens is group of employees, okay, can be rated here, not each individual. All the employees, let us say the employee X, he you will decide upon where he falls below average, okay, put him in that category. Then employee Y, where he falls excellent category, okay. So you start throwing the employees in those categories. Individually you may not be able to get the rating of that employee, okay. So it becomes very difficult later to use that data for taking certain decisions. Of course you can make decisions related to job performance and promotion ability, whether they are having or not. So how will you do that? So whoever falls under the category of good and excellent, again you have to take them. You have to use any other performance appraisal technique like ranking method or paired comparison method or graphic rating scale, and then you can decide whether promotion ability is there in any person or not. Only using force distribution method you cannot promote anybody, okay. You can get a category of employees who are really good and fit for promotion, but again in that, whom to promote, you have to use some other appraisal technique, so that that the company will be deciding which combination of appraisal technique you will be using to identify the person who is very suitable for being given promotion, okay. So that is a force distribution method. So I'll just repeat it again. Employees are categorized in 5 categories here based on their performance. Then we have forced choice method. It works almost similar to force distribution, but here there are two ratings here. One is the most and second is the least performance. Okay, so if you take the criteria of regularity on the job, okay, so who is, for example, I'm rating one employee as X. Okay, I just name him as X. So this X, whether he is regular on his job, always regular. So here most of the times or least of the times you have to decide, okay, and you have to rate them. Then again he informs in advance for the delay. Most of the times he informs us, or he does not inform us at all. He is never regular to the work. Most of the times he is regular, or least times he is regular, right? So here you decide upon the employees, and then rate them. That is, rating is only done on 2 categories here, only the best and the least, okay. So why you are forcing that? That is why it is called as forced choice method. You are forcing the rater or the appraiser to choose any of these categories. Nothing like average system here, nothing like mediocre performance here, no, okay. You have to put your employees either in best or in the worst. So that is how force distribution method works in. Essay method is very simple method. You know what is an essay? Essay is just a narrative description. So the manager has to write a essay about every employee, okay, his strengths, his weaknesses, his performance, his potential, his fitting, whether he is fit for promotion or not. He writes a paragraph, an essay, a pages together of essay regarding an employee. That is an essay method. The major problem of this essay method is it is descriptive in nature. It suffers from subjective problem. That is, subjectivity is involved too much here. For the reason you'll not be able to measure and quantify his performance. You can use essay method with a combination of other appraisal methods here, okay. Simply like asking a question, you with a graphic rating scale, On the top, you can ask the question, describe the employee. Okay, so on the top, you just ask a question, describe the employee. So that is an essay method. So once you finish writing a small essay or a paragraph to describe the employee, then you start rating the employee using graphic rating scale method. So you can use it with a combination of other methods, but you cannot use it with as alone, stand alone to measure the performance of the employee. It's a positive point. The main positive point is that it is very simple to use. No complex formats or specific training is required to use this essay method. But the problem is absence of a prescribed structure. It does not have structure. You have to just go in lens together to rate the uh, employees. So the essays are and one more problem is, for some employees you may write pages together of description. For some people you may write smaller descriptions. So that is one more point. Then the language or communication skill of the rater also is very, very important here. So some raters, they don't have good communication skills, or language may be a problem for them. So what they will do, they will just write within 2 or 3 lines with great difficulty and finish it off. But in other department, the manager is very good in English. He writes pages together of description about his own employee. Right? He has lot of vocabulary. He uses very good words regarding their employees, and he writes pages together of description. So who is the best here? Even though your employee has performed the best, you may not be in a position to describe that performance in the words, because you don't have good communication skills compared to the other manager of the other department. So that is these are some problems you may face in this essay method. Okay, so these were all traditional methods of appraising. So now let us understand assessment centers. Uh, Long back in 1930s, this concept of assessment center was initially applied in military systems, especially in German, wherein War Office Selection Board used this kind of method also in British Army. Okay, so for that selection system, also assessment centers are being used. Here, the same assessment center is being used for appraising the candidate. So as the name tells you, it is not a room, it is not a center here. It is a kind of a setup wherein the candidate is or the employees are given job related exercises. I'll give a simple example. For example, there is an engineer, okay, a production engineer. I will just give him a machine which is having some problem. Okay, so he is given 10 or 15 minutes time to repair that machine. So this is what is done in assessment center. Then another situation, the employee will be sitting in the room. He will be put up with lot of problems around him. He has to come out with those problems. Okay, he has to come out with a solution for those problems and try to solve those problems which he is handling in day-to-day routine work. Then a role play technique can also be used as a part of assessment center. So give him a role of a manager and ask him to handle the problems of the employees. So his interpersonal skills, communication skills can be tested here. Okay, and that is one more example. Then ask him to plan, let us say he is in the public relation department, he has to organize a meeting with the press. Ask him to plan and organize a press meet. So check his skills there. So this is one more example of an assessment center system. So these are some techniques. We call them as simulation exercises or in-basket exercises. Okay, so these kind of techniques help the managers to understand how good their employees are in various skill sets. It may be communication, interpersonal skills, planning skills, organizing skills, whether that employee is being mentally alert or not, whether he is able to give him lot of stress by giving him huge amount of work. Okay, whether he is able to handle that stress or not, self-confidence. So to test these kind of skills, you can conduct these so-called in-basket exercises or simulation activities to measure the performance of the employees. So for today, okay. So are you able to listen to me?
Yes,
Yes,
ma'am.
ma'am.
Okay, done. I'll
Yes, ma'am.
mute you all so
Yes,
that we
ma'am.
can continue the session for another 10-15 minutes. Okay.
Yes,
Okay,
ma'am.
ma'am.
Okay,
Okay,
done.
ma'am.
Okay.
Fine. So we were discussing about assessment center here. So as I already told, it is not a place here, but still some exercises or activities are conducted to measure the performance. So this assessment center is a technique which is also used in selection processes here. Okay. So in the assessment center, what they do here is when it comes to appraisal, with respect to appraisal, performance appraisal, they put the candidate on simulation activities. Okay, simulation activities in the sense they give them a dummy kind of activity, just like a job, and then that employee has to perform on it. I gave an example in the earlier this one discussion where an production engineer is given with a defective machinery, and he is given some time period, and within that time he is supposed to repair that machinery and make it work. So this is a kind to test his engineering skills, whether he is fit for that job or not. That is done in selection. That is being measured here, whether he is able to repair the machinery within given specific time period or not. So that is being evaluated. So such kind of simulation activities are given to the employees to test their whether they are able to perform their job correctly or not. Then there are something called as in basket exercises. So let us say a shop floor employee is given a basket full of tools and parts of the machinery. He is supposed to use them and repair a machine, or he is supposed to use them and start a machine, or something like that. So such kind of activities are given in basket exercises. Then a basket or a tray full of documents are given to a manager, and he is supposed to look into all those documents and take certain decisions. Or if there is any problem in those documents, he has to identify a solution for that problem. So such kind of activities are given to understand their skill levels in terms of communication skills, interpersonal skills, problem solving skills, awareness, mental alertness skills, whether they are able to plan and organize the things or not. Give them an opportunity to organize a program, so their planning and organizing skills can be tested. Stress can be created for them in the job environment only, right? So all such kind of activities can be conducted, and these activities are a part of these assessment centers. So their performance is being assessed here. It is a complicated process, and it is highly time consuming. Most of the times this kind of techniques, especially assessment center, are used up for higher level managerial category people. The numbers are less, and their problem solving, decision making abilities, interpersonal skills are measured there. So for such category of people, assessment centers can be used up. So that is a very latest categories uh, used up by companies, big multinational companies in the countries. Then we have MBO, Management by Objectives. Remember this abbreviation MBO. Okay, it stands for Management by Objectives. So what is done here? Objectives are set, and you check whether the employees are working accordingly or not, right? So here the main uh, factor behind this technique is objectives, nothing but goals, right? So here the whole process depends upon the goals here. So what are those goals? And those goals should be smart in nature. And what are these smart? Smart stands for specific, measurable, attainable, reliable, and timely. Okay, so timeliness should be there. Time should be set up for them. Okay, reachable and reliable. So that is R. So the goals should be in such a manner that they should be specific. That is, you should define them clearly. What are the goals of the department, of the organization? It has to be clearly defined. Then measurable. The goals should not be subjective in nature here. They should be purely objective in nature. It should give an outcome. Okay, that is measurable. Subjective goals have to be set up. Then attainable goals. That is, attainable means you cannot just say that this year we have 30 crore of business, next year you have to increase it to 500 crore of business. That is highly unattainable. It is not so easy task, right? So set up goals which are attainable with some effort. Okay, then reliable and reachable also. Okay, so that stands for R here. So they should be reachable, the same thing, attainable, and they should be very reliable here. So that is what is SMAR. And last one is T. T is timeliness, because without the timeliness you will never be able to what I can say, decide upon when the goal has to be met up. So it is very, very important that the time frame has to be set up for the time has to be set up for reaching the goals. So that is timeliness. Okay, specific, measurable, attainable, reliable, and reachable. At the same time, it can also be relevant. They should be relevant to the departments also. Then timeliness. Okay, so it should be time bound. So these are the things. Smart goals should be kept in mind. So now let us look into the steps of how this whole thing works. The very first thing is, it starts with the goals of the organization. So whenever goals are set up, it comes from always top, like vision, mission, goals, objectives, the same thing at the organization levels, the goals are set up here. So the same goals are divided into departmental goals. Let us say if the organizational goal is to be the market leader, okay, the same goal has to be divided to the departments. So every department has to concentrate upon becoming the market leader. If it is production department, it should not be lagging behind in terms of production. If it is sales department, it should beat the targets every now and then. So like this, departmental goals have to be set up, and these departmental goals will be purely dependent upon the organizational goals, right? So whatever goals have been set up at the organization level, now department will look into those goals and set their own goals. Okay, then those departmental goals will be discussed with the members of the department, that is employees of the department. So once you discuss with them, you clearly define them what they are going to do or what is the expected result from them. So, and then they start performing after this. And once they start performing, if it is biannual, if it is annual performance appraisal system, after 1 year, you have to review the performance. So if they are meeting the goals of their department, ultimately all the departments will meet their goals. Ultimately, your organization goals will be met. If they are not meeting, provide a feedback where they have gone wrong, why they were not able to meet. So have a discussion with your own employees so that next time the same mistake does not happen in the organization. So this purely starts with the goals and ends with whether those goals have been met or not. Okay, so these are the steps involved. First, keep in mind, set the organization goals. Then based on those goals, set the departmental goals. Because see, let us say there is finance, HR, and marketing. The organization is to reach 30% high growth in the sales this time. So if 30% growth in the sales has to be achieved, you must be thinking that only it is marketing department goal. What about the others? No, they should be supporting the marketing department to do this. Finance department should look into the finance part, that is how much expenditure we are going to incur to increase that 30% growth in the business, how much incentives we have to give, how much extra salaries we have to give, how much promotion activities we have to spend money upon. Okay, all these will be considered in by the finance department. HR department goal is to supply people to the marketing department, because 30% growth is not a small game here. Okay, so if that goal has to be met up, they need extra employees, and that extra employees HR department is going to give them. So HR department has its own goal in acquiring the or recruiting the new employees into the organization, and they have to train them, and once they are trained, they are placed in the marketing department. Now is the job of marketing department. So they will design the ads, they will put promotion activities, they will start convincing the customers, they'll try to, by hook or crook, they'll try to reach the 30% growth in the uh, organization. So when the organization goal is set up, don't think that it is only restricted to one department or two departments. Every department will be influenced by those goals, and they have to set their own goals so that the organization goals can be met. Then whatever they had said, they have to discuss among the members of the department and define the expected results to those members. So once the results are communicated, expected results are communicated, the employees start working towards achieving those goals. After 6 months or 1 year, performance review is done, and if they are able to meet the target, well and good. If they are not able to meet the target, you have to discuss with them and provide feedback and discuss where they have gone wrong. So keep in mind, guys, the organization goals should be smart. Smart means specific, measurable, attainable, reliable and relevant, and as well as time bound. Okay, so these are the things you should keep in mind related to management by objectives. Coming to the most popular one, that is 360 degrees performance appraisal system. Why it is called 360 degrees? If you look into this picture, you will come to know why it is called 360. You can see this. Okay, so can you see this? From all the direction, the employee is being appraised. Let us say he is standing in the middle. Okay, so this is a employee who has to be appraised. Okay, so everybody who is directly or indirectly connected to him will be measuring his performance. It may be subordinates, it may be immediate supervisors, customers, or it can be self as well as peers and also top management. So all these people will one or the other way are going to appraise the candidate. So that is why it is called as 360 degrees appraisal system. So let us look into the details first, and then we'll come back to this slide. This method was first used in 1940s, but it became more popular after 1990s. So here, just like on the compass, we have this 360 degrees circle. Here also the same name is being used, because from all the direction the employee is being assessed here in terms of various factors. So it is a multi-source feedback system. Because why it is called multi-source? Because you are getting information from various sources regarding the employee. Okay, it is one of the best tools today, being incorporated by lot of popular, most famous popular Fortune 500 companies, which you can find out today. Okay, normally for which category of employees you use this tool? It is for managerial and senior most level, where the roles are little bit complex and they are dealing with different kinds of stakeholders. Okay, they should be dealing with different kinds of stakeholders in the organization. So for such situations, this kind of a technique is most suitable. Okay, so let us look into how it works. So let us say there is an employee working in the organization. The first person whom he gets into contact with is his peers. Okay, so I'll just okay. So okay, his peer group, right? The first category of people he comes in contact with is the peer group. Peer group means the people who are working on par with him. Okay, the people are his colleagues themselves. So the first information from which the management is going to get regarding this employee, okay, is the peer group. So this peer group is given a questionnaire or they are interviewed and the questions are being asked regarding the employee. So how you find him, how good he is with you, what is the relationship with you, whether he works properly or not, whether he maintains good relationship with you or not, whether his interpersonal skills are good or not, right? So such kind of questions are asked to the peers and the feedback is taken from the peer group. So that is the first source of information in this 360 degrees appraisal system. Then next category is the most closest category is the subordinate category here. So here the subordinates will give a feedback about their superior. Here the employee, let us say the employee is the manager and he has subordinates, workers under him. The workers will give feedback regarding the manager here. Like how he treats all the employees, whether he pressurizes them, whether he gives importance to them or not, whether he is biased or unbiased or what. So such information is asked from the subordinates with respect to this person X. Okay, then immediate superiors. Okay, so this immediate superior means head of this person, boss of this person. He can be the branch head or something like that, under which whom this employee X is going to be working. So immediate supervisor who is supervising that employee is supposed to rate the employee here. So he also gives a feedback on maybe various factors here. And one thing, guys, you can use a questionnaire here and circulate it to all the people, or else you can conduct interviews to all the people and ask about this employee. But the problem here, if you conduct interview, is it is going to be highly time consuming. And for every employee in the organization, you have to conduct this uh, appraisal system. There, the kind of number of interviews, like let us say 10 employees means there are 20 other sorry, 6 other people like top management, subordinates, peers, self, customers, immediate superiors. So 6 into 10, so almost 60 times interviews have to be conducted. So it becomes very difficult and time consuming. So you can, the best way to get the information is a kind of a graphic rating scale or a questionnaire method. You can ask information about the employee here. So immediate supervisors can give information about the employee's performance here. Then comes your customers. These are also stakeholders. Let us say you belong to a customer relationship management department. How you address the problems of the customers. So customers can give a feedback regarding the employee here. You people must have got calls from various companies. Let us say like you are having some problem with the Vodafone network. You had called a helpline and there is a customer care who had talked to you, customer care executive, and he resolves your problem and he keeps the back the phone. After a few minutes you get call from the company to and asks that company asks you to rate that customer care executive. So this is what is the customer's feedback. Okay, so the customer's feedback is taken in the through interviews or through questionnaires or like an online questionnaire form or something like that. Then that is one more source of information to measure the performance of this employee. And then we have self and top management. Okay, I'll come back to the self a little bit later. Let us discuss top management. In some or the other situations, the employee must have come in contact with the top management. Maybe to submit some documents, maybe for some discussion, maybe for some meeting, maybe for some presentation. Some or the other reason, the top management must have come in contact with this employee. And even it can be related to complaints received against him or appreciations received against him. So even that information also can be considered here. So the top management will rate this employee. And the last thing what is self appraisal. Okay, so you will be given a form to be filled in regarding your performance in the last quarter, annual or biannual appraisal system. So you have to fill the data there, what all you have done, how much work you have done, how do you rate yourself on various factors. So you will be filling up a questionnaire on your own regarding your own performance. So from all the sources, the information is collected. That is why it is called as a 360 degrees appraisal technique. This is one of the best technique, of course complicated, but highly reliable technique when it comes to data. From all the areas, you can measure the employees' uh, performance on various categories. All of them can give their ratings, and based on that, their promotions, hike in salaries, or whatever decisions you want to take, you can take accordingly. So this is a kind of a 360